U.S. President Trump appears to be leaning into the economic rivalry between Canada and the U.S., but he's also framing it as something of a friendly one. Here's another moment from that White House meeting and the scene in the Oval Office with Prime Minister Carney.
It's a complicated agreement, more complicated maybe than any other agreement we have on trade, because, we have natural conflict. The problem we have is that they want a car company and I want a car company, meaning the U.S. wants a car company. And they want steel and we want steel.
Let's be clear about the relationship as it stands right now. We are the second largest trading partner of the United States. We do a lot of trade going across the border where we're cooperating, first thing. Secondly, we are the largest foreign investor in the United States. $500 billion in the last 5 years alone, probably $8 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get.
From the Oval Office yesterday. Now with me in studio, our senior business reporter, Peter Armstrong, who is following along very closely those discussions and, sort of parsing where things could go from here. He has an analysis piece up online that you're going to want to read. So the Canadian delegation pushing ahead with trade talks in Washington. Do you have, after listening, a clearer idea of what could be in an ultimate deal?
I was going to say that you got to kind of squint to see it. I don't think you got to squint anymore. I think it's pretty clear, right? I think if you listen more specifically to what Dominic LeBlanc said after that meeting, because he said it's about steel, aluminum, and energy. You were just mentioning that Hodgson, the energy minister, was down on this trip. Rosemary Barton has broken the story that Keystone XL has come up, that if there's some kind of exchange here, right? Like, remember, still, 90-some% of our exports going to the United States are going in tariff-free because they're CUSMA compliant. They're compliant under the USMCA. So the issues are steel, aluminum, softwood lumber, auto parts. If you can get a deal on steel and aluminum, well, you're starting to deal with some of the auto parts already, right? There's a lot of crossover there. Then you can start to see the outlines of a deal at the very least. But we know that Anita Anand is meeting with Secretary Rubio. There are things happening. This event is still ongoing. So trying to sort of squint and see what the outlines of it are now might make us all look a little foolish in a couple hours if we get breaking news on this. But like I say, I think we know the outlines of it. The question, I think, is going to be, what do these specifics look like, and how much give do you have to give to get some relief here?
The president's indicating that Canada would be happy with what was struck. And again,
he said that.
He did. And then to come back to Dominic LeBlanc, the news conference after, saying that there is, I don't know if it's pressure or urging from the White House to get a deal done quickly.
Yep.
So again, that analysis piece on our news page, maybe Trump is feeling some pressure as well, Peter?
So this is what I started looking into, and it began with, you and I have talked a lot about the model that we have from the 2016 to 19 trade war in the first Trump presidency. And we saw how the tariffs didn't really have much of an impact on the American economy out of the gates. And then slowly, as sort of the stockpiles ran out and businesses started to actually have to buy stuff off the market at this newer, higher rate, it started to hurt. It started to get some layoffs. It started to yell at the president. That's what sort of led to a lot of the exemptions we got. So I tried to look at where are we in that kind of curve. And yeah, you're seeing a lot of pressure points coming. You got the American soybean farmers. They're going to get somewhere between $15 and $50 billion bailout package as early as this week because they've been locked out of the Chinese market over the trade war there. You've got Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, who the evolution of his message has been really interesting. That sometimes he's like, early on, he was saying, these are going to be tough and we can weather it. And, we're a proud American car maker. Then their earnings came out and it turned out they were going to look to pay $2 billion in tariff-related costs over the first half of this year. Last week, he gave an interview in which he was just hammering the point that we're the most American of car makers. We've got this $2 billion headwind. How on earth are we supposed to invest into our business and hire more American workers if we're paying these costs? So those pressures are all coming to bear. And I think at the very least, there has to be a notion within the Trump administration that if we can make some kind of a deal on steel or on something, that we can get the complaining, we can get the lobbying off our backs. Lobbyists in the United States it hit a record high in the first half of this year. More than $900 million spent in lobbying. The very swamp that Trump said he wanted to drain has been reinvigorated by all of this, the confusion and the chaos and the lobbying for carve-outs and for bailouts as a result of the tariffs and the trade war.
So interesting. I'm about to bring in the numbers for the markets ahead of trading next hour. So the phenomenon, the ultimate haven for safety is gold. And we have seen, maybe it's because of the shutdown in the U.S. or this overall economic uncertainty, but it blasted through the $4,000 per ounce threshold for the first time. What's happening?
There's a lot of things happening, and gold is weird. I think that's the technical term for it. But the main thing I think that's going on here is it's yet one more pressure point on the Trump administration. You've got people saying, I see a top, or what looks like the top in the markets. I see a weakening economic landscape coming towards us. I'm going to put my money somewhere safe. Now, you can't buy groceries with a gold bar. You can't sort of try to buy a car with a gold bar. You're going to get a visit from the IRS. It is simply a place to shore up your money when you're worried. And it's a sign that there are investors out there that are worried about the direction the American economy is going in, that as this trade war drags on and bites deeper into the American economy, it gets harder to get out, and it puts a ton of pressure on a stock market that's already at, pretty serious highs.
All right, why don't we look at those numbers? Peter, thank you so much. Our senior business reporter, again, his analysis piece up on the CBC News website or on the CBC News app as well.